Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mount Vernon Industrial Development Agency monthly meeting. Today is Thursday, October 9th, 2025 p.m. 2025, and the time is 10:08 a.m. And I'm calling the IDA meeting into order. You can call the roll.
Excuse me. I'm Robin Mack, Director of Business Development for the IDA, and I will be leading the meeting today. So calling the roll, Chair Patterson Howard.
Here.
Member Brian Johnson.
Here.
Member Stephanie Vanderpool.
Here.
And we have represented for the Mount Vernon City School District, Chris McDonough,
Present.
who is non-voting. And with that, we have a quorum and we will begin today's meeting.
Approval of minutes from August 14th.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt, I move to adopt the August 14th, 2025 minutes.
I second.
Roll.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have full agreement and we'll move on to the financial report. We don't have Controller Morton present, so let me pull it up and I will read it. Bear with me a second as I pull it up.
One of these?
I'm trying to pull it up on my. Thank you. Okay, reading the financial statement from September 2025. We have revenue from our pilots at $213,927. We have some rental fees coming in at $30,599. Escrow from one of the new projects of $6,250. Those funds specifically will be forwarded to Victoria's Stores to begin the cost benefit analysis on one of the new projects.
Proposed projects.
Proposed projects, yes. And then we have interest at $261 for a total income in September of $251,037. We have expenses of $8,403 for the one employee of the IDA, pilot remittance number of $1,281,856. Which, as you know, that amount then gets divvied out to pay the respective municipalities and government offices that we do pay when collecting those pilot fees. For total expenses in September of $1,290,258. Our total assets have not changed from the prior quarter, which is $5,011. $5,011,860. Liabilities from accounts payable and which other in pilots with a total of $1,477,948. And we see our closing balance as of September 30th, 2025 of $3,197,883.
You want me to, can I just
Mhm.
companies. So as we look at our pilot payments and open balances, right now, we are looking at Dominican Magic with a balance that has not been paid. They entered into and returned a payment agreement to us in May. They have not made this quarter's pilot payment, nor have they caught up with past ones. The same is true for Regent Hospitality Linen Services, where they have an unpaid balance that is bringing them out of compliance. We already had proposed in a resolution to extend them a payment agreement. But we also stated in the resolution that if they did not stay in compliance with their agreement, that we would take the legal actions needed to collect the money and begin clawbacks as stated in the agreement. And so we will proceed with that. Then when we look at our administrative fees, most of those have been paid. We will follow up with Heritage South from 924, as well as 203 Gramerton Avenue, and American Christmas, and the Enclave and Regent. So we will follow up, but I would say about 85% of the administrative fees have been paid for 2025. And that's pretty much the financial report. So we will just continue, as we've already resolved, that we will move forward with, collecting on unpaid pilots and, enforcing the clawbacks that we had already agreed to.
Absolutely. And that would be both for Dominican Magic and Regent Hospitality.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the business development report. We have served the unauthorized auto repair shop occupying 229 South Fourth Avenue, which is an IDA property. We've served them. They received service on September 30th, and we will go to local court on October 15th at 9:30 to push forward with having that property returned back to the IDA.
Sit on October when?
15
October 15th.
at
And did
9 a.m.
ever declare that the location was uninhabitable?
Absolutely. So we went through the process of declaring it uninhabitable, unoccupiable, through inspections conducted by our fire department and our building department. And so we've got all of that on record. The most recent visit to that location before the unauthorized tenant was served was early September. And we have all of that on record.
Okay.
And so we'll go before the court again, October 15th, which is next week at 9:30 a.m. An update on Fun City, which will occupy the former Bed Bath & Beyond space. They received their permits in August, and they are proceeding with construction. They are estimating that they will complete construction late November, early December. As you guys recall, Fun City is, a kid's trampoline adventure park. And so there's very little construction to occur within that open space. And so they are estimating that they will complete construction, let's say early December. But of course, that doesn't indicate opening in December. There will be several inspections that would need to be conducted by the Department of Buildings to ensure construction meets all codes of New York State and fire and such. So perhaps a ribbon cutting in January 2026. Floor and Decor, which is a high-end flooring company that is occupying or will occupy the former Stop and Shop location also on Sanford Boulevard. They have received their permits. The Department of Buildings and I, fire, as well as the floor and decor staff have monthly cadence meetings to ensure that construction is proceeding accordingly. They're estimating 17 weeks for construction with an approximate completion of February 2026 and opening end of February, early March. Also, the former Salvation Army site, not sure if anyone has driven past there lately, but the debris and everything, all the rubble has been removed. And so what was once the Salvation Army is now no longer there. The property owner is proposing mixed-use residential development with retail on the bottom, apartment units on the top. Those plans have yet to be submitted. And then across the street, the property owner who owns the Salvation Army also owns the property across the street from the Salvation Army, and he is proposing a major retailer to come into that area. They're having very productive conversations with that major retailer, and they've progressed as far as to do traffic studies in that area. And I hope to have more of an update for the board at our November meeting. But that looks to be very productive. And not sure if you want to say more about that, Mayor.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to speak about the businesses that we're talking to and looking to bring in, but they would definitely add to what Mount Vernon needs, right? I always talk about the fact that we are not a poor city. We just have poor services, meaning we don't have a lot of the stores and the services that people want to shop at. And so people leave our city to go to other places to spend their money instead of us being able to recycle our money here. So we're enriching Yonkers and New Rochelle and White Plains and New York City and Jersey and Connecticut, but we're not enriching Mount Vernon. And so that is what we're doing, is working with landowners to attract the type of businesses that we have heard our residents say that they want. The one thing that I want to put on record, and I look this way at the people, is, as we have announced Fun City, as we have announced floor decor, oftentimes you have people saying, well, we want this there, and why can't you reopen this store and that store? We're going through our comprehensive land use plan right now. And, people have to understand the powers of government and what is not in our power.
Right.
The city of Mount Vernon does not own all of the land in Mount Vernon. The land, just like people own the land for their houses, people own properties and land where businesses sit on. And so what the city does is we define what types of businesses can go in those areas, whether it's entertainment, whether it's retail, whether it's industrial, whether it's housing, whether it's mixed use and things of that nature. And so everyone was saying, well, Stop and Shop closed, the supermarket should open there. Why do we need Floor and Decor? Who's renovating their houses in Mount Vernon? Floor and Decor is a very popular store, right? And there's only one in Jersey and one in Portchester. And so businesses aren't always just for our convenience and just for us to shop in. It's also to attract other regional business, right? We want people to come into Mount Vernon and spend money and add to our tax base. And so, we did work with that property owner to try and bring, a food retailer there. They did not agree with that. They chose the company that went there to meet their needs and what it is that they needed as a property owner. And it fit within the land use guidelines and regulations, right? Someone put something up today saying you need to open up the art center back on McQuestion Parkway. You know, the art center left. We can't go and it's not our property.
Right.
Now, if the property owner wants a land or art center there and there's an art center that wants to come, then that's a match. But it's kind of like your kids. You can say, this is what I hope you do, but they're going to pick their own, person who they date, their own spouse. And as a parent, you can't just dictate that, so that's just something I wanted to say because, people don't really understand how this works. And, we're the mayor, we are electeds, but we are not dictators. We can't just say this, you have to use your land
Right.
that you pay taxes on for this, for exactly what we want you to do, or else you can't do it. As long as they stay within the guidelines and they follow the rules and they're in compliance, then we work with them to build that. But we have heard the residents and, talk about wanting a major supermarket, other food retailers and other places to shop and coffee shops. We've heard so many of the comments of what people have said during this more than 2-year comprehensive planning session that we've done with over 30 workshops. And so as we are reaching out to businesses, as we're talking to landowners, we are lifting up these priorities to these property owners and working with them to attract some of the businesses that the people say that they would like. And so the other thing, which was a really big concern that we've been addressing over the years, is historically in that area down there at Sanford and Columbus and Third, there had been some flooding, right? But we have been working we received a grant through former Congressman Jamal Bowman's office for $1 million. We have used that to work on flood mitigation in that area. We redid the Edison pump station over there so that we could have better alternatives for pumping that water and it can move more quickly. And, the owners in that area are aware of those challenges and are working with us. So, whoever comes there is aware. They know we're not trying to mess with people, but we're also looking to solve problems. What cracks me up, and I'm just going to say this, everyone says they want Mount Vernon to change. Everyone says they want Mount Vernon to get better, but everyone wants it the way they want it. They don't want this, they don't want that. And the first thing that you do when you start seeing positive change, if they're not the one that's controlling it and managing it, then they start talking about how it's going to fail. Oh, Fun City's just going to be a ghetto hangout. Oh, Floor and Decor is going to close within 6 months. I've never seen people want better and then you're working to get better, then they're wishing and hoping against the success of better. So we will continue to do the work. We will continue to work to attract businesses. And we ask that not only our community, but those in the surrounding communities support Mount Vernon as we are in the process of revitalization of, our major retail corridor areas and our downtown. Business development, you didn't mention that Sprinkle Studio. The Sprinkle Studio had their ribbon cutting on Saturday. And so we do have a new business that opened on Saturday, Ashley Sweet Treats, which is at 28 West Sanford Boulevard, and opened in 2023. She expanded and opened up another location literally next to her, which is called the Sprinkle Studio. And we've talked about places where people can go have experiences, right? And so she's added on to her bakery, and now she's allowing people to come there and do cake decorating classes, do paint and sips, do little small birthday parties with the teaching of the hands-on experience of the baking and things of that. The Sprinkle Studio doing some education around business and entrepreneurship and things of that nature. So we were able to go there. It was a nice ribbon cutting on Saturday. Lots of community support. And it's really nice to see a young Mount Vernon entrepreneur who grew up just a block away from her business, not only open one business, but within 2 years, open a second business right on that corridor as well. So thank you to Robin and the building department for always working with her to do what it's needed to do.
That sounds very exciting. I'm thinking of all kinds of things you could go learn
Yeah, I
how
mean,
to
it's
bake.
nice. We've seen in Fleetwood, I believe Home Free has opened, it's open, it's really.
They're not good for money, but
My family ordered there last week and my daughter was visiting from Brooklyn. She was like, oh my, this is good. And, you know, so we are opening other things. School of Rock is progressing and out in the community. We've seen the Jungle has been winning awards and has been recognized in 914 Business Inc. as being a premier business, and they're doing a lot of experience evenings and people are traveling. They're looking for a bigger location because she wants to expand.
She doesn't want to move right next door. The place next door is.
But that's new, right? But she's looking to expand. She's looking to expand because she wants a bigger sit-down opportunity. I see people coming from Scarsdale and Rye to come down here to be at their cooking nights and their experience nights. Tossed and Pressed
I was just.
is expanding their business. That's another young entrepreneur here in the city of Mount Vernon, and she's expanding her business and she's doing well. So,
She's expanding.
she's expanding next door and she will double her size and her footprint in that place. We're looking to bring some of those sit-down opportunities, some healthy foods, again, so that we could spend our money right here in our own community and that other people from outside of the community will say, I'm going to Mount Vernon
Right.
for this place. So,
We have Corey's Waffles on the corner of Gramerton and Prospect that'll be opening up soon also.
yes.
Corey's Chicken and Waffles. Yeah.
And he has an
Yeah.
extensive menu.
Mhm.
So.
It's going to be.
And he said, and I'm going to say this for the record. I said, Corey, what's taking so long? I mean, we've been expecting you to open. He said, it's not the building department. The building department has been on top of things. It's my contractors. I got to get them moved. I was like, oh, okay, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't us.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't us. So, all right, thank you. Old business, we have the Sentinel Penrose project. I know that they are having conversations with the planning department as part of their pre-application. They had a call yesterday. I know that they have opened up their escrow account so that Ms. Storrs can do their cost benefit analysis. And you already spoke about the 229 South Fourth Avenue business. So we've covered that. Library Square project, business around that.
Library Square, met with the Finance Committee of the IDA, last week. We will move forward with, their cost benefit analysis with Victoria Stores. We've already, authorized that. Same thing with Heritage House South and North. And so the projects, Heritage House South and North, well, this one only indicates south, but it's both south and north. They're commonly known as the Target Shopping Center, and then across the street is the Best Buy Shopping Center. And they too met with the Finance Committee of the IDA last week. We're going to move on ahead and have Victoria Stores conduct the cost benefit analysis. And once that's completed, of course, it'll then come to the board for review and discussion before any decisions are made.
they're looking to do something there?
So what they're looking to do, Heritage House North and South, is they're looking to extend their current pilot agreement and ground lease by 14 years. So their current pilot expires 2031, so they're looking to push it out to 2045 just to even things up on both sides of the street. And they're indicating that they are looking for someone to potentially purchase those parcels in order to better attract retail.
So it's Gensler, correct? GNS?
Gensler is more residential.
Right.
They are not a, retail or commerce, developer or even property manager. And so for that reason, they think it's best if someone who specializes in that type of business runs those two sites for the city.
But they came and gave a presentation a few meetings ago.
Mhm.
I didn't recognize the name.
So again, it's an application, right? And I just want to stop here for another commercial pause and education moment, right? Because I'm going to do the education moments, right? And so as we've talked about Sentinel, as we've talked about Library Square, I understand that the process is the process. I still feel it's kind of like a faulty process. But the more you educate the community, the more they'll either understand, or some people will just continue to spread misinformation when projects come. And it'll change also after the comprehensive plan happens, right? After we do rezoning,
Right.
and it's much clearer as to what can be built as of right, what can be built, and that people are in compliance with the zoning.
Yeah.
Right? Right now, because we haven't done a comprehensive plan in 57 years, all of your projects really go before the council first.
Correct.
And they go to the council because the council has the ability, even though there's a zoning board, the council can designate themselves as a lead agency. And if they designate themselves as the lead agency, then they lead the rezoning discussion and whether or not that project can come and get built. And so what people see is projects going before the council, presenting as workforce or presenting as low income. The market rate projects also go before the council,
Yeah.
and they see all of these discussions. But there are discussions, right? There are discussions around zoning.
Right.
Zoning and financial inducements are totally separate. So what happens is lots of time is spent for the zoning board or the council. And so people are like, oh, this is going to be built. This is going to be happening. The city's going to give pilots. They're separate. And I promise you, sometimes I believe that the conversations that people put out there are just to cause confusion. I'm just direct because I'm so over just the political correctness when other people are not operating in truth, when they're trying to take advantage of people not understanding the process to misinform them, to miseducate them, and to cause confusion in this community. So all we can do is put out what the process is and the truth, and the people can either believe it or not believe it, but I'm over the performative outrage and that just the lies, and I'm going to push back against them. I'm not going to go back and forth with people, but we're going to put out truth, and then people will judge from there, right? So the zoning issues can take place and they can tell them to go forward and they can go before planning boards and zoning and ARB. But what the IDA does, and so far as inducements of these projects, are separate, right? And so I am excited and I'm hoping as the land use board, as the comprehensive plan is adopted, that those months of talking about zoning and rezoning and we want this and we want to see that goes away.
Right.
And the conversation moves much more quickly to this table, right? So that all of the soft costs that are often spent by the developers trying to figure out if they can build the project,
Right.
that timeline is shortened, and the financial discussion as to whether the project is financially fit for this city.
Right.
Right. And if inducements will or will not be given, and our new land use plan really calls for mixed use,
Right.
right, with retail at the bottom. So the retail and whatever the housing is at the top would have to make sense for the city.
Right.
It'd have to make sense for the school district. It cannot be a losing financial opportunity
Right.
for the city, right? We are not in the place to continue to give big breaks. HCR
Yeah.
is coming to Mount Vernon in another 2 weeks to meet with this administration, because we also have been telling HCR that, the governor says she wants workforce housing, but workforce housing doesn't always equate to 58% AMI.
Right.
What about people who have incomes that are higher that also need housing? There are working people in our community, right? And we cannot continue to keep people in an underclass by just building housing that says you can only make this amount and tell the developers that will only support your project if you keep it at such a low level that the burden has to be borne by the city and school district.
Right.
That doesn't work. And so HXCR has been saying that they have wider bands of income levels that they will support through financial, I wouldn't say inducements, but through grants from the state. And so we want to talk about those. We want to understand what those look like, because those make the projects economically viable for the city and the school district, as well as for the owner of the property long term. Right. And we can't continue to use formulas from 30 years ago when utilities and maintenance costs and staffing costs and all other type of costs and the city's costs and the school district costs have changed. I've been very, very clear about it publicly and privately on the record. And it is something that we continue to push. We've pushed it in WMOA. We are pushing it in NICOM. We're pushing it across the state. Because as times change, formulas have to change, right? We're not paying for a laptop what we paid for a laptop 30 years ago. Okay? And so we can't continue to do that with other projects. And then, like we said in our comprehensive plan, we focused on mixed use because we want to make sure that the ground levels of properties are bringing in revenue and bringing in services and are creating neighborhoods. And we're not just walking by building by building by building without any real economic value to the city. We want to provide housing and we want to provide economic stimulus. So just because these projects present before the city council, they still have to go through a process to see if they are economically viable to the city. And hopefully with the comprehensive plan and rezoning happening, that process will shorten. And people will understand how it works better. So I'm going to try and be quiet after that, but but we haven't had we didn't have a meeting in September.
Right.
And, you see kind of a lot of discussion around the comprehensive plan. You constantly see the conversations around pilots. And, I want to put together some educational materials that will be easy for the community to digest, right? So again, that they can have facts, and not, information from the blogosphere, which is always trying to stir up confusion. So
And
facts.
as you've indicated, with the board authorizing a cost benefit analysis, it only is to support the board deciding if they want to induce a project or not. That's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Doesn't even mean that the board will say yes. The board could say no.
Absolutely. As we have.
As
We have.
so, yeah.
Or as we've gotten to yes through negotiation to make sure that there wasn't financial harm to the city and the school district. So, and we will continue to do so. And we've already, the IDA is already paying for a whole nother financial study around pilots and inducements and the impact it has on the school district. And what's the name of the Urbanomics, right? So that's a study that's going on. We look forward to that information. So we're trying, the financial feasibility thing just gives us data.
Correct.
Urbanomics will give us data.
Correct.
So that we can make data-based decisions. It's not about whether I like the project or don't like the project, or the building's pretty, or someone's donated to a campaign. It's about data, making data-based decisions. So that's how we're vetting our projects. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes new business. We'll move on to resolution. there are three resolutions for, let me just go back to new business. The third bullet, private activity bond allocation, that's the amount that's given to each municipality by the New York State Economic Development Corp. Because we did not meet in September, and the deadline was September 15th, those credits were absorbed by the state, and so Mount Vernon.
And we didn't have a project that.
Didn't have a
was ready to
project.
accept it. So
Right.
even if we met in September, we didn't have a project that met the need because it has to be shovel ready, but not already having broken ground.
Correct.
So it gets reused.
It did, right. And in the past, we've been able to transfer those to another community, so, but this year we weren't able to. So three resolutions for the board to, go on in and consider. Resolution 10-2025-1, authorizing payment of invoices. So there are two invoices, for payment, and that is one for healthcare premium for the employee of the IDA, and then the other is for the cost of legal services by Harris Beach Mertha, Colina. Am I saying that wrong? Colina. Okay. One totaling $2,959.06, and then the other was $4,266.50. I'll put it to vote if somebody can make a motion.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-1.
Seconded.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That passes. The next resolution for consideration is resolution authorizing the IDA to transfer funds. We redo this.
Are we skipping the one for adopting the 20?
I don't have a budget.
I don't have a budget either. I was-
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't see it in you guys' packet.
Yeah.
So
So we will table that
we'll
for,
table that for the next meeting.
and so resolution
So we'll go to
10-2025-3.
2025-3, authorizing the transfer of funds to cover the cost of the agency's audit in the amount of,
$25 million.
1 point.
I see that.
Up to
No.
1.5.
The agency is authorized to transfer, or Sterling Bank to transfer an amount of up to, of the operating funds.
That's just to get some interest on it, because the account is in-house.
Yeah, no,
Trans- yeah.
this is transferring
Yeah.
money into from the operating to a money market account so we can earn interest. This is not,
Yeah, that's a.
yeah, this,
I'm
yeah.
sure-
No, this is not the cost of the
I
borrow.
was like,
I'll become a CPA tomorrow. If that's what I'm
I'm like,
getting
what in
paid.
the world are we doing here?
Sorry, everyone. Tomorrow I'd be the CPA. Yes, so we are looking to, no, it says the 2024 audited financial statements. There is no indication there's any restriction of the use of funds being maintained in the account.
I got you.
Look, we're looking to transfer $1.5 million into an interest-bearing account, to get higher yield for us. And so, yeah, that's
That makes
what this
sense.
is.
That makes much better sense than
Mhm.
my initial.
All
All
right,
right, so I move to adopt 10-2025-3.
seconded.
Yeah, yeah, we're just looking to move it from an account that's just gonna sit bare, move it to a higher interest bearing account. We had depleted, as you know, over the last few years, money out of our money market account because we did not have money coming in. So once we got money coming in from the projects, moving that money into an account that would yield greater interest is what we're doing.
Okay,
Makes perfect sense.
absolutely.
I move,
So we
Um,
have a motion?
I moved.
we moved in second, so,
Okay, so
and that was the question and discussion. So all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Morton's not voting?
Morton, are you in favor? You're.
Are you?
Yes,
muted.
aye.
Aye, okay, we didn't hear the aye, okay. All right, motion passes.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the report of agency council. Darius, is there anything you'd like to?
No, no update other than what we've already talked about, so that covers it.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to put on the record, an issue that we are dealing with the building department. And that I've already also reached out to HUD with, and I've reached out to the New York State Attorney General's office with. And that is the management, concerns around the management of, Ebony Gardens, that is managed through Related Management. And I'm bringing that here because I know back in, I believe it was like 2021 or 2022, before we had the ability to induce any type of financial support, that through the county's IDA, that Ebony Gardens had pushed for an extension of their pilot. So for the purposes of renovation, a mass renovation of Ebony Gardens. You know, we know that they've been there, over 30 years? And so in order to continue to support and not lose 100 and I think 44 units of affordable housing, that measure was supported. I did meet at the Dole Center with representatives from about 90 of the apartments
Wow.
in that facility, who detailed very concerning and made very, very serious allegations as to the maintenance or the quality of work that was done or was not done by Ebony Gardens. And they spoke about flooding there. They spoke about mold. They spoke about poor electrical work. They spoke about water coming up through the floor. They spoke about the building not being sealed properly. They spoke about vermin. They spoke about the amount of extermination services being reduced, and that the management company is paying for a reduced type of extermination service, and that they're seeing more water bugs, and that they're experiencing, breathing issues and related issues. The building department was there. They are going over, they are looking at things, but then they also talked about the professional management or lack of professional management thereof of related staff on the grounds, and that how the place is being run like it's a prison, that the way the management speaks to them is absolutely disrespectful, that management is intimidating residents, and definitely our seniors, that management continues to try and collect stale rent or rents that were dismissed and settled, and they've gone to court maybe for some people who had old rent, and they settled on a payment amount and they paid that payment amount, but Related continues to try and collect the monies that the court dismissed as stale, that they are not, I have worked with HUD, either administering programs or being funded by programs since 1992. And what I do know is when you're living in an income-based housing unit, and 30% of your income is supposed to go towards your rent, that each year you have to do what they call a recertification. And you bring in your pay stubs, you bring in your bank statements from the past 6 months, and there are calculations that are done, there are exclusions that are calculated, and your rent is established for the next year. And if your income were to increase or change or decrease, you have to report it and your rent will be adjusted accordingly. They say that they drop off their paperwork and I believe her name is Pamela, right? You know, she works there, so I'm saying, you know, Pamela. So Pamela is forcing residents to sign recertification paperwork when it's not filled out. That's like signing a contract that hasn't been filled out. And if you don't sign unfilled out paperwork that tells you what your rent is gonna be, that she threatens to evict you and not renew your lease, right? Because your lease has to be renewed. Those are unfair practices. HUD was on the line through that night that we did this. We went on for a little more than 2 hours, but the Dole Center closed and we had to finish the meeting a little bit after 8 o'clock. But HUD was quite concerned by what they heard. I was concerned with what I heard. Myself and Eric Crump, whose constituent services, had an hour meeting the next day on Zoom with HUD the day before the government shut down. The day before the government shut down. And HUD was quite concerned as we detailed, and they were better able to hear what we were detailing to them, to the point that HUD, when they reopen again, is looking to send their own inspectors and their own contractors out there to review the quality of the work that's done. I'm trying to remember, what is the Section 8 group that kind of manages a lot of the Section 8 contracts in C, you know what it is? Oh, okay. See something, I can't, not CGI. But I'm gonna be reaching out to them. But I reached out to HUD on the concerns around the physical upkeep of the building. Oh, also tenants' rights are not listed in the building. The information on where you can call and complain on the management of the building, that information was removed. The privacy of the residents is not respected because if you call the office, the staff will only speak to you on speakerphone. And so everybody who's in the office, residents or staff, can hear the conversations around your business and your housing.
Is the urban, Mount Vernon United Tenants?
Mount Vernon United Tenants was at the meeting. They were at the meeting and we followed up with them the next day because they had to leave about an hour into the meeting. We are contacting Westchester Residential Opportunities so that they could also be involved. And then I called the Attorney General's office because of the intimidation.
Yeah.
Right, and the conflicts of interest. So staff have jumped the waiting list and they're moving their families into units where other people have been on the waiting list for years.
And all of this stuff is allegations.
All of these are allegations. These are all allegations, right? Yes, including Pam's. There are allegations and there are police reports that we are gathering where residents have had to call police on management staff who has intimidated them. Where allegedly, I said we are gathering the police reports. So I'm going to be like Wendy Williams, allegedly. So I'll say allegedly before everything, right? Allegedly, additionally, residents' cars were towed. And they were allegedly towed by companies who do not have operating permission in the city of Mount Vernon. And they were allegedly towed by companies that are owned by family members or friends of management. And allegedly, the residents do not know how they can get their cars back. And some of these cars have been towed as far back as June, and they have no recourse to retrieve their cars. So it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And so, like I said, reached out to the Attorney General's office, to their housing division, so that they could also follow up on these concerns, and that I want to go over with our building department and take a look also at some of the complaints and the units And, you know, there are residents who've lived there for 37 years and they said they've never seen the condition this bad, but more importantly, they've never been treated this poorly. There's a difference if, you know, like I said, it's 144 units of housing. And when 100 units of housing sign a petition, because more than 100 units of the residents signed the petition that stated either problems with the conditions or problems with the managerial professionalism or lack thereof. Um, you know, that's not five people, you know, if it's five people, you can say, oh, you didn't pay your rent, baby. And, you know, so you don't want to pay your rent. So you gotta, now your sink doesn't work, you know, because that's what happens sometimes. But when you have 85% of the people in a complex, and how many people are going to come out to an 8 o'clock meeting outside of their building, right? That's rare at that level. You can have a meeting in the building and get 20 people to come downstairs. You had over 100 people come outside of their property to come over to the Dole Center and meet for 2 hours and continue to talk for a half an hour outside. So we want to look into it, and I wanted to put it on record here because we have to, you know, I want to go to the county and look at whatever the agreement was with them in the county and to see if they're in violation of that, right? Because if they're in violation of that, then, you know, that's another tool that we can use to begin to resolve this issue, right?
That whole corridor is a problem.
Huh? Mm-hmm.
And speak to it from the standpoint. It's had, but they had downstairs, they had to be past the churches right adjacent to it. That entire corridor is a housing nightmare between Ebony Gardens, Levis Towers, and Grace. What's it?
Grace House.
Grace House,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the last past number or two, we've had a multiplicity of housing issues, non-compliance, not heat, elevators not working, maintenance not upkept.
Electricity being cut off.
Yeah, these folks are just not, these management folks are just not treating our people right at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they're treating them, they're significant slumlords. And they're just not doing what they need to be doing. And it appears in some cases that, yeah, maybe their financial model is not right, but that's on them. And they're gonna have to, then they have to try to figure it out. But all of this is problematic, and I'm gonna tell you, it's problematic for any of the folks that are around their businesses and anything else. You know, when you got folks that now are, because we got folks now that's sleeping in the backside of the church. You know, we have to put up additional cameras and all sorts of stuff because of stuff that is happening. Because of, you know, they'd rather be there than to be in the house. It's absolutely crazy. So I don't know. So what we're gonna do about it, but you know, this is new. I didn't realize it's about Ebony Gardens, but now it speaks to some of the stuff that I'm seeing now around that in that area and what is happening with the people.
Madam Mayor, you mentioned electricity. What did you?
Oh, people saying that their electrical sockets don't work, you know. Other ones who are concerned about their children's asthma. And so when, you know, they're saying you put in new floors, right? You put in new floors, that was, they said as part of this multi-million-dollar renovation. Someone said 600 million, but I can't imagine 600 million, maybe 60. That's why.
New buildings.
Yeah, you get
All new buildings.
600 million. Yeah, you get totally new buildings. But the parents are saying that, you know, I mop my floors, I do this, but when you look at the bottom of my children's, you know, pajamas, that there's like mold growing on the bottom of their pajamas because literally water is coming up through the floor because the building has not been properly sealed. And so water comes through the building under the subfloor and is coming up through the floor, and it's causing breathing issues for their children. And so, you know, again, these are things.
And did all of this happen after they did the whole change?
This is This is,
We supposedly to be invested so much in it.
Yes.
Built that whole community room. That just happened like 3, 4 years ago, didn't it?
3, 4 years ago.
Do they have use of the community room?
Company too, Hudson something, and even like the.
To Related.
Guards, but now I think they just named up, see something.
So Related owns over 100 properties across the country. They own
What's
more
the-
market rate than they do, affordable. But this is one of their affordable, and, you know, the residents even said they've done secret shopping. They said, we've gone to some of their affordable properties and it's not maintained like this, right?
Maybe they should call David Pearson, who's the vice president and general counsel for the applicant. He's the guy who filled out the County of Westchester ID application.
So, they had,
Hand out his email in
they
the
had,
gardens.
so at the meeting, they had two of Related's leadership team. One was one was the VP of assets, right? Their properties. And the other one, I don't have my paperwork in front of me, but we have their names. And so, of course, she took copious notes, and he said he was new to Related. But I was very clear, right?
So-
I was very clear. I formally, you know, I started working for City of Mount Vernon in 1995, and I ran the HOPWA program, which was funded under HUD. And we did scattered sites housing through HOPWA. And so myself and Cammie Banks had to go and become, you know, housing quality certified. So I was a certified housing inspector, right? for years.
The question though is, Mayor, I mean, so how do we empower the residents to make this a big deal?
Oh, they are.
It's like it's so.
No, they still like, maybe as you were coming in, like I said, 100 of
I know, I
that signed it. We are working with Eric, and we are going through with the building department. Jamie Pessin was at the meeting because he's the code compliance manager. And we are going over there and getting a literal detailed, we want unit by unit information. We are working with their tenants association, which Related management is not recognizing. They did not allow them to have the meeting on the property in the community room. They allegedly took down the flyers that the residents posted to say that there would be a meeting. So they had to go back and get flyers made again and put them
I'm
under
very
people's
good.
doors.
The people reached out to the legal aid society. It seems like they need a. legal
Like I said, so
representation.
Mount Vernon United Tenants, and so they were there, and the executive director, the interim executive director of Mount Vernon United Tenants is an attorney, right? And so she was there along with Shauna Holmes, who was kind of the community advocate. And we did say we were following up with Westchester Residential Opportunities. HUD, of course, like I said, we met on a Monday night. You had 100 people coming out on Monday night. On Tuesday, we had a follow-up meeting with HUD and conversations with the AG's office. And then on Wednesday, the government shut down, so HUD could not necessarily follow through, but they want to send their person there. And I'm trying, like I said, I keep trying to remember who's over these Section 8 project-based programs, but they told me that they had a review at a certain time. They have a review every other year and every 3 years. They told me what their former scores had been, which, you know, were good scores. But I said, well, I know you have another visit scheduled in November. We might need to get someone here sooner, but November is also here. So we're helping them to organize and reach out to legal supports, but we are also, as the government, reaching out to our other government partners to lift the alarm, because we are not housing managers, right? We do not have the ability to prosecute. We have the ability to write a violation, but by the time that goes through the court system and, you know, you fight to get those violations corrected, that's it could be a long process as well. So we wanted to bring some more immediate, heavyweight, heavier gun type of attention to this for people, you know, they're the people who they have to be in compliance to.
Right.
Right. And then You know, are there potentially some criminal things that are happening? Because if you are forcing people to sign paperwork without allowing them to see what's filled out, you know, that's against every rule that HUD has. Um, so, you know, that's the beginning of the conversation. Levister Towers, like you said, since we're on this conversation, we do have a conversation today. We have a call scheduled for Levister Towers. You know, between the elevators constantly not working, we understand it's an old property. I got calls at, you know, at 2 o'clock on one day saying that the electricity in one of the buildings had been turned off because the management company had not paid the electricity and had a very high balance. I spoke to Con Ed and Con Ed told me that every single one of their buildings were scheduled to be cut off. They owed so much that not only did they cut off the electricity in the common areas, because the residents paid the electricity for their rent. Well, yeah, they pay it directly. So it didn't impact the apartments, but the elevators, the hallways, the stairways, the laundry room, you know, the lighting outside, the safety lighting, all of
That's
that.
crazy because they got stuff going on that corner.
All of that was disconnected. And that's not allegedly, that was fact. And not only did Con Ed turn off the electricity, they owed so much that Con Ed took the meter off
Oh.
of the building.
You know how
They
much money you gotta owe
removed-
Canada this and.
Sir, I already know, they removed the meter. And I want to be very clear, right? Because I was getting emails and I thought that these were spam emails that were coming from Con Ed every night at 2 o'clock in the morning. There are about 100 properties in Mount Vernon that are multifamily units, dwelling units, where Con Ed is at the point of being prepared to cut off the electricity. 100.
It's Levister Towers
Multi,
one?
Levister Towers, all 5 of their buildings were on that list, right? Sir, I will share with you this. It is very extensive. And every night, when I get up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, you look at your phone, and there's like 10 buildings on there with, you know.
Because they have to notify the government.
They have, yeah, but they had never done this in all of the years that I'd been in office. So, you know, kind of over the summer when it started happening, I sent the email forward to, because I wouldn't click on it, right? 'Cause you're always afraid someone's trying to spam and get into the system and gain access. So I sent it to IT and they were like, it looks suspicious to us. So I just kept, you know, just letting them sit there. But when Levister Towers' thing got cut off, I called the head of government relations. And I said, you know, I'm getting these emails and I forwarded to her. She wasn't fully familiar with it. So she forwarded to the right person. And she was like, yeah, these properties are all scheduled and at risk for having they owe at such serious levels that we can cut off their electricity at any time without any further warning or notice. And I said, you know, I need you to send me the full list. And I just did like this. And I was shocked, right? But again, this is representative of the challenges. We know utility rates are scheduled to jump about another 18 to 19%. The city of Mount Vernon is involved in a legal action to prevent that. We did allocate money to go towards the Westchester Municipal Officers Association. As president, I'm now past president, but as president, that was a project that we took on and we agreed to. As I think 43 out of 45 municipalities in Westchester County to try to fight. New York City had done it before and they had been successful in rolling back some of what the proposed increases were. And so we're trying to do the same thing. And these are not all low income apartment buildings or rent stabilized. These are even, you know, market rate, co-ops, condos, Fleetwood, South Side, East Side, West Side, small buildings, garden apartments, big buildings. It's It's
guess that's what-
alarming.
But the utilities built into the rent, so it's the manager, the owner of the
The-
building that pays for one
Well,
year, or?
Well, like I said, these are even market rates. So with market rate, the
Yeah.
residents pay their portion for their units
Yeah.
directly to Con Ed, but the common areas,
So the,
apartment buildings, whether it's paid into the rent
right,
or the person pays it directly to Con Ed, the,
Properties, though. Saying, it's possible though that some of those properties are where the utility is paid into the rent. So they
Like a
could
shelter
help,
rental
right,
situation.
when they cut them off,
Mhm.
people inside also. Now, that's not the case, like you said, with Levister.
Levister, right.
But there may be some people at 100, I can only imagine that there are some of them that their utility isn't part of the rent.
to humanitarian disaster.
So yeah, it's crazy and it's getting darker earlier and all this stuff.
It's, and this is a conversation not for this board, but we definitely have to have a conversation. I left Mount Vernon at 2:45 in the morning and traveled to DC. I spoke at the National Press Club yesterday morning about the proposed SNAP cuts and WIC cuts, right? 262,000 retailers utilize that network, right? We have a large number of retailers in our community that accept EBT and WIC. And should those benefits be cut, the viability of our stores, the loss of jobs, the loss of access, the possibility of us becoming a greater food desert. And when you look at that and the cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and even the Affordable Care Act private industry, when you look at the proposed cuts to HUD and CDBG and Section 8 and home and ESG, when you look at rising utility rates and challenges with affordability, we have some real things to look at. And so that's why you see me in these meetings pushing back and educating, because I don't have time or energy or interest or tolerance to deal with the little ankle biting BS
Yeah.
that goes on in this community when we have real issues as a community because of the federal climate, the challenges that the state is going to be meeting, the challenges that the county of Westchester has already shared that they're going to be having with their budget. And we're in budget development process, and all of this has a trickle down impact on the city. And so if I seem a little less patient with the silly politics and politics, I am. Because we have real issues that we have to deal with as a community.
We do, and so I think that you have to go one. You can't fight with that alone. So you're the mayor, but you can't fight it alone.
Yeah.
So, and two, it's not just your problem to try to solve or try to strategize for how we're going to have to deal with this. You were there. I said we had these conversations with the clergy, black clergy on Saturday about what are some of the challenges that are coming before us, because it's not just about what you just talked about, it's the whole news. And right, we talk about the fact that, as I informed you, that the rate for the retirement costs for our employees has jumped $3 million.
Mhm.
Insurance costs is going up. The benefits person just told me yesterday that the rate for the Medicare reimbursement is jumping 11%. Right? So when all of these things are happening, right, on this, I think that we have to figure out a way to get a collaborative together of community leaders who just said, not folks, like you said, not folks that can come around the table and whine and cry or just come there just to cause a problem, but folks that are actually come to the table and say, "Listen, we recognize we all in this together. There's a problem. And we're gonna have to have this almost like a task force that has to really look at all of this. What are the impacts? What are the economic impacts? What are the social impacts of these things that are happening that we have no control over, right? Night after night, I'm having sleepless nights trying to figure out the financial math for this city based on what I see is happening. And then how do I best articulate this to the public, right? And make sure that they understand that it's not just about it's not just about numbers and percentages of tax increase, but these are true, actual challenges that we are now dealing with because we've been so reliant upon other funding sources and things of that sort, and subsidies that have come into the city to help us to provide the necessary, the basic services, right? And as I said to some of the school board trustees, right, that were at the meeting the other day, right? We're connected to this together because what is affecting, and it's not only just them, but also any other social community-based group that is providing these kind of social services is going to be affected because more and more of our CBOs are not going to be able to provide the services that typically they have done because government is not designed to do that. School systems are not designed to give that. So
Police departments are not designed to be the social workers of the community.
and they're not gonna have a big, for them to actually effectively learn. Folks will come to work, and they're not gonna be able to be efficient in their job because now they lost their home, they're living in their car. You don't know that they're living in their car. They're rushing somewhere to try to get a shower done in order just to make it work, to make sure that they got money, right? What else? I can't even imagine how many folks are working in this city, right? And are absolutely homeless.
Right.
And we just don't know them. Right.
The hidden homeless, the couch surfers,
Right.
the people living in their cars, the people, right? And this is not about demonizing people. Yes, we do have some people who have mental health and substance abuse challenges that have caused them to be homeless. But I can tell you, as we've looked at data, not just from our area, but across the country, the number one, the biggest increase in homelessness are senior citizens, right? Senior citizens is the biggest, the one of the biggest reasons that people are being made homeless right now is medical bills, right? Medical bills that they can't manage, that they can't pay, or medical illnesses that have caused them to have to leave work. Like like you said, this is much bigger than us. And these are the things that I've been saying. And, that's why, like I said, I'm not here to argue with people. We are here to find solutions. Because whether I'm in this seat or I'm not in this seat, that's not the issue. The issue is what's going to happen with the community. And people who feel that they have some type of magic wand and they have all the answers, come have it, right? Come have it. You want this? You could damn sure have it. Right? They can have it. They can have it all. It's not about whether I'm running, not running. I got 2 years, 6 years. None of that is the issue. The issue is our community is not unique. It is having the same challenges as other communities around us. The greater challenge that we have is that we don't have the reserves. The greater challenge is that over the last 30, 40, 50 years, we haven't looked at the issues and created new structures and foundations. Like I said, so much of what we're doing hasn't been done in 30, 40, 50 years. We have operated in crisis. And in crisis.
And clean up.
And we're cleaning.
Many of those very ill-advised, bad, if I wasn't a bitch, I'd cuss. But,
I saw Kamala Harris say, yes. I said,
it's like, you got to be kidding me. Somebody, right, you gotta be kidding me. They just didn't think this through, right? You gotta be kidding me that they didn't think that down the road that this was not going to make sense. That the contract that you negotiated just needed to have a shorter period of time than for you to renegotiate it or something of the sort. It's just absolutely crazy that how much of we're cleaning. But we would never have anticipated that one, COVID would have happened, two, that we would have what is happening right now in our full federal government on it. But then, lesson learned, we gotta now begin to plan that way just in case. Worst case scenario kind of plan, rather than, okay, yeah, it'll be all right, this won't take care of itself. No, it's not.
Rainy day funds, right?
Absolutely. Invested. I mean, to be honest, I just can't imagine the way in which you look at it from a standpoint of even financial management, financial planning for the city, right? And you learn more. How do you plan for a city to make sure that there's always reserve funding, there's particular funds to do stuff, right? We should never be planning without there being two separate budgets,
Right.
operating budget and a capital fund budget, right? But yet that's the way this is operating. It all kind of intermingled in it. And so therefore things ended up when you didn't have this, you took from here to pay that. But now what we're doing, what people are seeing in the audits is that there is this interfund payment back for because you took money from this in order to do this, then now you don't have any money here to pay that back. So now you got basically a bunch of deficits. You're looking at it, right? There was no accrual kind of fund
Right.
for people who are having these accruals, right? Not keeping that, right? You know,
right.
yeah, there's so much.
You can't take out of the current. I saw the meeting of the night. Talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, just stuff like that is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, we're digging it out, but now we got present day issues. So the progress we have been making in the last 30 or some years.
And which is
And
real.
now put on hold to deal with what we got to deal with right now.
So to kind of wrap this up, so none of us go commit Harry Carey. None of us go commit Harry Carey. Thank God for God. But you know, the former let's press forward and pray that it doesn't fall apart, right? That's not how we have been operating. We've had to deal with things that had never been dealt with. And like you said, pulling together that kind of interdepartmental, collaborative, different, all of the different stakeholders from all of the different sectors. And then the community playing their part. And we have replaced the roof on the armory. We have replaced the roof on the police department. We have replaced the roof on DPW. We have paved 45 miles of road. We have repaired, new fire trucks. We have brought new police cars. We need to do more. We have brought a new fleet of DPW equipment, right? The flooding that was happening due to sewer backups or the sewer backups that were happening are down 95%. The overtime of responding to those are down. Progress, every bridge over the Metro North tracks has been reopened after 37 years, right? Memorial Field is reopened. Now we have to get it to the revenue producing level that we want it at. We are making progress. We are making strides. We have funding. More funding is coming in from the Armory. In January, hopefully, we will be breaking ground and working on the Dole Center. The economy, the macro economy of the city is no different than the micro economy of people's houses. And if our residents are in houses trying to figure out how they're going to balance their bills, if you're doing it at their houses, trust me, we're doing it at this level. If you're spending less, then less tax revenue is coming into our city. If you're finding and having a hard time trying to find a way to meet all of the competing demands in your house, it is no different than us trying to find a way to deal with the competing demands as a city. But there is also a responsibility of the citizens, right? Because neighbors don't know each other anymore. They expect the police to do everything, right? Because people are nasty, and I'm gonna say it, nasty. People talk about, oh, the city looks nasty. DPW's job is to collect the garbage, not to pick up after nasty people who have no home training, no respect for themselves, and no respect for the community, right? The police don't have time to sit out there and write tickets and follow behind your untrained, disrespectful kids who follow your nasty habits, because the kids say, Mommy, Daddy, don't throw stuff on the ground. And the parents say, F it. You teach the kids in school, but the parents throw stuff on the ground. But you talk about stuff is nasty. Well, then pick it up. Tell your neighbor to pick it up. Don't you throw stuff down. Don't race past the buses. Don't hit the garbage men when they're trying to collect your garbage, right? Common courtesies have stopped, and everyone expects government to be the parents to children and to grown adults who don't give a darn about themselves and how they live in their community. So it is not the government's job to be everybody's parent. It is not the government's job to sit there and wait for you to throw something on the ground and for us to give you a ticket for littering, right? It is a community thing. In order for us to get through all that we're going through, we also need the community to step up. Like less complaining, more solution. If you're spending 10 hours on fake social media complaining, my challenge to you is turn around and use an hour to mentor a child, maybe mentor your own child.
How about that?
But mentor, how about that? Mentor a child. And am I judging? Yes. So what? Thank you. Yes, I'm judging.
Before we close, as a reminder, we have the Paris report due on November 1st, which is a Saturday. So more than likely, the due date is November 3rd. But we'll need to come back together to talk about the 2026 budget in advance of that.
Okay.
So I'll move forward with scheduling a special just to talk about the budget.
Wait a minute, would we have to have a meeting? You mean just to approve the budget?
Correct.
We didn't have it in,
We don't have it in the packet.
so we
It was
tabled it.
But maybe it didn't, mine didn't print properly, but
Oh,
Yeah,
didn't have it.
Oh, it didn't get included.
it wasn't in the packet that we received. So,
Uh,
and maybe 30 minutes max is what's needed for them.
Too, I mean, just so we say, for this agency, is the thing is that this agency actually is fully fine with, ABO.
Oh,
And say that, you know, about URA, but a lot of that is because the audits are is what primarily is holding up. We're now, from the URA standpoint, we're now actually focusing in on the parish reports for the URA to try to get them up to date. So there was just a mishap in people understanding that once the audit got done, we needed to get the parish report done. So, you know, we got 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 just got released, I think. 20 on the councils, right? Yeah. Oh,
Actually, I'm sorry, because I missed this. I missed the budget, so that's because it is here. But I'm looking at it real quick and I want us to kind of pull this back because based on what I'm looking at, the salary for the IDA staff has been the same since we came in 2020. Every department, director, leader, commissioner, supervisor, union staff person has gotten increase
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
Ms. Mack has not. We have never made an adjustment to her salary. We have had multiple conversations that when revenue started coming in, that we needed to look at the staffing structure to see if we could provide some type of administrative support. Because if she's doing the administrative support and trying to get the businesses and do business registration and be the expediter for businesses with the building department, like, you know, we're asking her to do everything with nothing, everything everywhere all at once with no support. So, you know, we're not looking to, right, and she has submitted to us and she has even submitted to civil service and HR because she was never hired as the director of IDA. She was hired as a business compliance person and that was around COVID. We didn't have an official kind of IDA. We didn't have the certification to be an IDA when she first started. Some of those things have changed. She's taken on other functions and duties that are not even reminiscent almost with what you started. And so we need to look at those. And I think before adopting a budget, we need to have those conversations.
May not have time for that. So, I mean, but so that.
Then put a contingency in it.
That doesn't change. I mean, just because the budget is submitted doesn't mean that that's what it's gonna be. So, I mean, if we have time, yes, but if not, then we need to just adopt the budget as it is and send it into them. We can always adjust.
Okay.
The budget is just a guide, based upon what we think it is. But I think you're right. I mean, we do need to look at also because we talked about pulling back some of the stuff that we actually was giving over to Harris Beach to do that was much more operational.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning, we needed Harris Beach to do that. And so it made sense to pull some of that back and to give that over to a staff person to do. But the stuff from Harris Beach that we need for Harris Beach to do is fine, stay there. But operational
Yeah,
stuff,
administrative support.
people needed to be pulled back.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we had this discussion about also expanding what it is that we wanted to look, how we want to look into what IDA was going to be doing from the standpoint of actually pushing forth the economic business of it. And the only way to do that is to begin to think about what that structure should look like,
Mm-hmm.
right? To support that, to do it. So, yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure we had it on record because, this is not about her being my childhood friend. It's about the one and only employee in the entire city that has not gotten a salary adjustment since 2020, right? And has gotten expanded work duties. So whatever that's going to look like, we want to make sure that we address it. And go from there, I mean, we have to make the definition of what we want this position to be, what we want it to look like respectfully. And I'm saying, are you the right person for where we want to go? And if you are the right person, then what are we going to do? We like all of that has to be, right? The conversation, but I want us to have it. I want us to have it so that we have a plan. I think this IDA has come a long way. And I think we are primed as a city to really start pulling in more business, but we have to have a plan. What's IDA doing? What's URA doing? What is planning's role? And how does this all look and be structured? And those are the discussions. We can move out of crisis mode and laying the new foundation and let's start building the first and second floor. Okay.
And I'd like to also state that I have passed the civil service exam for economic development as well, so.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations. I didn't know you took. I didn't know that there was this.
2 years ago, I passed.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you.
People being paid their worth.
Huh?
Said I'm all for people being paid their worth.
Well, we won't say people being paid their worth. We're gonna say being paid better. There ain't none of us being paid our worth, but just being paid more in line with what's right.
Close.
So did we talk?
We talked about the report is being done, but
Yeah, and so hopefully they're waiting on, one of the things they're waiting on, I guess, the official enrollment numbers to be submitted. I think it's submitted on October 24th.
It's happened on Tuesday, so probably later this month. Soon, yeah, take a snapshot.
Yeah.
and so since that's being done and you're here, Dr. McDonough is the trustee. Do we think our numbers are going to be in line with what the numbers were stated as last year? Because I'm hearing there is such a great, and so, I want to have it on the record, right? Because it seems, right? And what I'm hearing is that the number of like maybe 6,500 students last year is much different than what y'all might be seeing now. And I don't think there's been massive hundreds of students who decided overnight to come to the school district.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we discussed is we have to have a consistent way of counting enrollment. So numbers that were presented to us the last 2 board meetings ago included kids who were enrolled in charter schools, for example. You wouldn't include those kids who are sitting in seats in district, also out of district placement. So we have to be clear about how we're counting students. But the other thing is enrollment versus kids who show up. You always have some fluctuation between that. So that's why we're waiting for these beds numbers. That will be a seat count, who's actually here in district. But I don't know, it could turn out that it's higher. Based on what we saw, it looked like the numbers are higher than what was reported last year.
Like 35 kids in
Closing
some
of
class.
buildings.
Right. And like you
so,
said, we make data-based decisions. And so now the big question is, was the data accurate? Was the data accurate? Was the data done in good faith?
right? So if you
Right.
don't have good data, then you're making decisions off of bad data, you're making bad decisions.
Right.
Not unintentionally, but you know, so we talked about getting that. I think Dr. Strickland is interested in getting it right.
Oh, I have. I've had, some great conversations with him.
Yeah.
I know he is working hard. We have had conversations with the, what do you call the state person?
The monitor, yeah,
With the monitor. We've had conversations with the monitor.
she's great.
She seems to be very, very strong and focused, and looking to drill down. So look, everyone thinks the worst thing that you could have is a monitor. I think the best thing that I did was call in the Department of State to look and review the building department. I think the best thing we did was call in the state controller when we first got into office to look in to see what was happening, because we're not experts and we don't have the bandwidth to drill all the way down into some things, because we're oftentimes operational. So, having that extra bandwidth, that extra support from the state to drill into some of these things is great. Just know that we here as the city are looking to be a partner. I got enough challenges over here. I don't want to be the superintendent. I'm not looking to take over the district, not looking to manage it. We trying to keep our as the superintendent says, the front of our own door swept. Like you said, sweep your own front of the house before you sweep somebody else's. So
Partnership is key. I mean, these are the two sort of seminal institutions in the city. And now that there are land assets available through the school district, we certainly want to make sure that they don't fall into disrepair or into hands that don't better the overall mission of the city. So it's important, I think, that we partner on this. I know there's strong will on the board to do that.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. All right. Any other business? Because we've given a sermon today. But it was necessary. It was necessary, sometime for our own mental health.
I thought, no, we did have a long, productive meeting though, but in regards to Director Mack, are we gonna come back and meet and speak on that? Is that gonna have to be a special, or how are we gonna do with the?
Well, they said we could pass the budget, but then we still,
Okay.
we will amend the budget, but
Hopefully we'll do it before the end of the calendar year though, because like you stated, she hasn't had increase since 2020 and everybody else has, yes.
Yeah, I think the process has to be is one, you have to determine what it is that the structure, the IDA structure is going to be, what positions, responsibilities are. There is already, there is a one title that already was out there that I think that civil service actually approved, that included the executive director.
Okay,
Look at that, see if that's appropriate now.
okay,
Get that solidified. And then what happens from there is that then the HR then determines, well, they give recommendations, whatever you look at, HR can give recommendations as to what they need to salary
okay,
range.
so let's do that.
For that, especially if you're going that route. Because see, right now, then I think this position is appointed, but it's not under the competitive scale number. Nevertheless, you still need HR to give you kind of an idea.
Give us a
salary comparison as to what that is, like we did before.
Yes.
And then that's where we just approve present it to make the adjustments to the budget.
Yeah.
In the meantime, because ABO requires that budget
the budget comes through, then we need to move it.
Okay,
up for the changes.
And there have been
They
things,
teach you all the time, they tell us all the time, we're not gonna listen, just, people under the misnomer that when school districts and cities adopt a budget, that they're
locked in.
locked in, and that their bodies that authorizer can't go back and adjust. You absolutely can go adjust. The only thing you can do is you can't necessarily, you can't adjust the tax rate.
Right.
Right? So whatever you're gonna do is gonna be within that. You can adjust it within.
Is it a
In this
specific,
case, you don't have a tax rate issue.
the specific timeframe that we can go back and adjust? No, okay,
No.
good.
But you have to adjust anyway. I mean, for years, and well,
Mhm.
just haven't done yet because we're still catching up with audits. For years, around about September of the following year of a budget, using the comptroller will then just submit to the city council,
Yes.
a sweeping number of adjustments in the budget to try to balance it out, right? As much as you possibly can.
But they usually ask the departments to do theirs first.
Well, we do. This is the do it all year long and restricting some of this method. So we.
Oh, you have been a buyer.
Got your
My
mind where
department.
that beat is.
Okay, thank you for that information.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
Okay. Can we have we have to do a roll call. You can.
Consensus, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we close the meeting on
Meeting is.
ninth at 11:42.